Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into an idea that's so much more than just a mood booster. It's a real, practical tool. We're talking about positivity and how these simple little shifts in your thinking can totally transform your day-to-day life. So yeah, let's get right into it. I mean, we've all been there, right? Some days just feel heavy. You're juggling stress, dealing with setbacks, and it feels like you're just swimming in a sea of negativity. It's something we all go through, but the real question is, what can we actually do about it? And this right here, this really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. The whole point isn't to pretend challenges don't exist. It's about reframing them, learning to see the potential for growth and opportunity hidden inside the very things that feel like they're holding you back. Okay, so first things first, we have to understand a really foundational idea here. Positivity isn't some passive state of mind you just hope to fall into. No, as we're about to see, it's an active choice you make every single day. Think about it. Every single morning, you have a choice to focus on what's working or what's not. And when you consciously choose to find that positive perspective, you're not just changing your mood for a few minutes. You are fundamentally rewiring how you see yourself, how you interact with people, and how you experience the entire world. But, to actually practice this in a way that works, we've got to clear up some common myths. It's so important to understand what positivity really is, and maybe even more importantly, what it is not. This right here is absolutely crucial. Real positivity is not about putting on a fake smile and pretending your problems don't exist. That's what some people call toxic positivity. Real positivity is about looking at reality, the good and the bad, but choosing to face the hard stuff with courage and to focus your energy on what you can actually control. So let's use this definition. A positive mindset is the practice of choosing to focus on the good, choosing to learn from the hard stuff, and choosing to believe in what's possible. When you think about it that way, you realize it's really a mindset built for resilience. Okay, so this isn't just some philosophical idea. It has real, tangible effects on you. Let's actually look at what happens inside your brain when you start to adopt this practice. So your brain literally responds and reshapes itself based on your dominant thoughts. It's wild. By focusing on positivity, you actually strengthen the neural pathways in your brain that support better habits and healthier emotions. And that, in turn, boosts your relationships, your confidence, everything. You're basically training your brain to look for the good, to seek out success and well-being. It's a really simple but incredibly profound loop. What you think directly impacts how you feel, and how you feel directly impacts how you act. So if your mind is constantly filled with thoughts of frustration or "I can't," well, your energy is going to reflect that. But if you fill your mind with thoughts of possibility, of gratitude, your energy has no choice but to follow. All right, so we get what it is. We get why it works. The next big question is, how do we actually do it? How do we turn this from just a nice idea into a consistent daily habit? Here is your 3-step daily playbook. It's so simple. It starts the second you wake up. Set an intention for the day. Then, throughout the day, your job is to catch those negative thoughts and consciously reframe them. And all of this is guided by one simple rule. Whatever you focus on, you get more of, period. Okay, let's get even more practical. I want to give you 2 super simple but really powerful exercises you can start using today to build this positive habit. First up, gratitude. And look, this is way more than just saying thank you. It's the active practice of looking for things to appreciate, no matter how tiny they seem. That first sip of coffee, the sun coming through the window, a nice text from a friend. When you focus on what you already have, you completely shift your perspective, and it feels like your happiness just multiplies. And number 2 is all about your internal dialogue. Seriously, how do you talk to yourself? Positive self-talk is about making the conscious choice to be your own biggest fan. So instead of, "Ugh, I can't do this," you switch it to, "Okay, I'm going to give this my best shot." It's about firing your inner critic and hiring an inner coach. This quote just perfectly captures the whole essence of what we've been talking about. It's a great reminder that it's not about trying to have a life with no difficulty. It's about building a mindset that's strong enough to find the opportunity inside of it. So I want you to remember this. You have incredible power in your thoughts. Think of each positive thought as planting a seed. Now, you might not see a giant oak tree overnight, but with consistency, day after day, you are cultivating a future that's filled with so much more strength, peace, and joy. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of the most important takeaways here. Number 1, what you focus on grows. Number 2, gratitude is a happiness accelerator. 3, your thoughts create your energy. And finally, remember that when you're positive, you're not just lifting yourself up, it's contagious, and you lift up everyone around you too. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to take with you into your day. It doesn't have to be some massive, life-changing thought, just one small, positive choice. What's yours going to be today? Thanks for spending this time with me.
We've all been there, right? That knot in your stomach, that feeling of unease or even fear that just seems to take over everything. It's anxiety. But you know what? What if we've been looking at it all wrong? So that's what we're going to get into today. What anxiety really is, and more importantly, how we can actually learn to work with it. So let's just kick things off with this one powerful idea, this reframe that's really at the heart of our whole discussion. We're so often taught to think of anxiety as some kind of weakness, something we have to fight or push down. But what if it's not a flaw at all? What if it's actually a signal, a message your own mind and body are trying to send you? So what is this feeling, really? Well, at its core, anxiety is just a sense of unease or fear. For some of us, it feels like a storm of worries swirling in our minds. For others, it's more physical, like a restlessness in our bodies. It's that internal engine that just won't turn off, you know? It makes it almost impossible to feel settled or at peace. But that signal, it's not trying to attack you. It's actually a call to action from deep inside you. It's your body's way of basically screaming, hey, I need you to pause for a second. I need you to just breathe. It's time to take care of yourself. So think of it more like a messenger, not an enemy. Okay, so to really understand what that message is trying to tell us, we kind of need to pop the hood and see what's happening in our brains. So in this first section, let's explore the science behind why anxiety happens and what it actually feels like. See, your brain has this ancient but super effective alarm system. It's hardwired to protect us from real physical danger, like a saber-toothed tiger back in the day. The problem is, in our modern world, that same alarm gets tripped by things that aren't going to kill us, like a tough deadline at work or walking into a crowded room. But our brain, it treats them all with the same 5-alarm fire level of urgency. And this brings up a really important distinction we need to make, the difference between stress and anxiety. Stress is usually a reaction to a specific thing, like that work deadline. Once the deadline passes, the stress usually goes away. Anxiety, on the other hand, especially when it becomes more of a disorder, can be so much more persistent. It can feel like it just comes out of nowhere and sticks around long after any obvious stressor is gone. And these false alarms from our brain, they show up in ways we might not even recognize as anxiety at first. Mentally, it could feel like your thoughts are just racing and you can't stop them. Or maybe it's just this constant nagging feeling of unease. And physically, it can show up as restlessness, like you literally can't sit still, or even unexplained muscle tension, and just feeling wiped out all the time. Okay, so now we have a pretty good idea of the why. But real power comes from knowing the how. How do we actually do something about it? So in this next section, we're going to focus on how we can actively break that cycle of worry and start to rewire our own thought patterns. The reason anxiety can feel so sticky and so hard to shake is because it creates this really powerful feedback loop. It works like this. An anxious thought pops into your head, and that thought triggers a physical feeling, like a racing heart. Your brain then feels that racing heart and goes, see, I was right to be worried, and that just reinforces the original thought. The cycle just keeps going, getting stronger every time. Let's actually walk through the anatomy of this worry cycle. It all starts with a trigger. Could be anything, really. Then your mind interprets that trigger as a threat. That's when your body's alarm system kicks in with a physical reaction. And finally, that physical feeling, the tense muscles, the quick breathing, just reinforces the idea that the anxious thought was right all along. And there it is, the loop. But here's the good news. We can learn to interrupt this cycle at any one of these steps. And that brings us to the really practical part of this whole thing. We're going to build your personal toolkit for inner calm. These are simple but seriously powerful techniques you can start using literally today to break that cycle. So let's take a look at what's in this toolkit. We're going to explore things like mindful breathing, expressive journaling, the power of simple, calming daily routines, positive affirmations, and just the incredible power of talking things out. And look, these aren't complex, difficult therapies. They're simple, accessible practices that anyone can do. And each one is a really potent way to gently press pause on that worry cycle. Let's start with the tool you have with you at all times, your breath.
This simple technique can directly, physically calm your nervous system. Now, the real secret here is making the exhale longer than the inhale. That's what activates your body's rest and digest mode, basically telling that internal alarm system that the danger has passed. Let's just try one cycle together, okay? Breathe in slowly for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now gently hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. And now a long, slow exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just repeat that a few times and I promise you will feel a difference. Another really powerful tool is a simple affirmation. You have to remember, when you're in that moment of anxiety, your brain is just screaming danger. By consciously and intentionally repeating a phrase like this one, you're actively talking back. You're giving your brain a counter message. You're reminding it of the truth. You are safe, and this feeling, it is temporary. It will pass. Just getting those thoughts out of your head is also so effective. Journaling is amazing because it lets you just pour all those worries out onto a page, which creates some distance and helps you get perspective. And talking to someone you trust, that lets you share the emotional weight, which instantly reduces anxiety's power over you. Honestly, anxiety gets its strength from being kept a secret. Okay, so these tools are fantastic for those in-the-moment feelings of panic. But what about the bigger picture? This last section isn't just about managing anxiety. It's about building a life where anxiety isn't the one calling all the shots. It's about finding a new path forward. And please remember this. These tools are a wonderful start, but they're not a replacement for professional support. If anxiety is really getting in the way of your daily life, reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness. It is an incredible act of strength and self-care. There is absolutely no shame in it. You deserve to feel supported.
And this brings us to what might be the most important message of this whole thing. The goal isn't to somehow create a life where you never, ever feel anxiety again. I mean, that's just not realistic, and it might not even be healthy. The real goal is something else entirely.
It's found by learning to live beyond it. It's about accepting that, anxiety might show up sometimes, but it doesn't get to move in and redecorate. It's about knowing you have the tools and you have the strength to navigate that feeling when it comes without letting it hijack your life. It really all boils down to this one simple but huge shift in perspective. So much of the struggle comes from trying to wrestle our thoughts into submission. But real freedom is found when we realize, as this quote says so perfectly, you don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop letting them control you. It's about learning to see them, acknowledge them, and then just let them pass on by. So I'll just leave you with this question. You don't have to fix everything all at once. True change, true healing, it just starts with one small, gentle step. So what's one small thing you can do for yourself today? How will you honor that signal your body is sending and cultivate just a little more calm in your world? Thank you so much for joining me.
Have you ever been there? You're staring at a textbook, you know you need to study, but your mind is just running a full-blown marathon of worry. If that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. We are about to break down that overwhelming feeling of exam stress and give you some real tools to get your focus back.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about what this mental treadmill actually is. Then, we're going to dig into why we get stuck on it in the first place. After that, we'll open up an action toolkit to help you get off. And finally, we'll learn how to zero in on the present moment and just breathe.
All right, let's dive into part 1, the mental treadmill. You know the feeling. You are so busy worrying, but you're making absolutely zero progress.
I think we've all been here, right? It's that non-stop loop of what-if questions. What if I forget everything? What if I don't have enough time? What if I just completely fail? Your mind just gets caught spinning on the same track over and over again.
This quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? All that mental energy, all that activity, it feels like you're working so hard. It is absolutely exhausting. But the thing is, it doesn't move you a single inch closer to being ready for that exam. It just completely drains you.
Okay, so why do our brains even do this to us? Why do we hop on this treadmill in the first place? In this next section, we're going to explore that cycle of stress and worry to really understand what's going on under the hood.
You know, it's really important to get this straight.
Overthinking isn't some kind of character flaw. It's actually your brain's protective instinct, just gone haywire. It's trying to shield you from failure, but in the process, it gets stuck in this high-speed loop of anxiety.
So, there's a huge difference between thinking that helps and thinking that hurts. Healthy reflection is productive. It asks questions you can actually answer, like, how can I make my study method a little better? But harmful rumination? That's when you get stuck on those big, scary outcomes you have absolutely no control over.
So, how do you know if you're stuck on the treadmill? Well, there are a few dead giveaways. First, there's that constant, buzzing anxiety that just won't quit. Then comes that crippling self-doubt, the little voice telling you you're not good enough. And finally, you get decision paralysis. You're so overwhelmed, you can't even decide which chapter to start with.
All right, enough about the problem. Let's talk solutions. This section is all about your action toolkit. We're talking practical, real tools you can use right now to step off that treadmill and start moving forward.
We're going to focus on 3 core tools. Number 1, grounding yourself to calm down those physical feelings of anxiety. 2, reframing your worries to turn them from fear into action. And 3, simply making a decision to break through that feeling of being stuck.
First up, grounding. This is all about connecting your mind back to your body. See, when your thoughts start racing, your body tenses up, but you can interrupt that. Just try this with me. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for a moment, and then breathe out slowly for 6 seconds. Doing that literally sends a signal to your nervous system that you're safe, and it gives your mind the space it needs to quiet down.
Okay, tool number 2 is a real game changer. It's called reframing. This is where you take that huge, scary thought, what if I fail, and you transform it into a small, practical question. Okay, what is my very next study step? Just like that, you shift your focus from a terrifying outcome to a tiny, manageable action.
And our final tool is so simple it almost sounds too easy. Just make a decision. Any decision. Instead of being paralyzed by a mountain of textbooks, just pick one single chapter and decide to study it for 25 minutes. That one small, concrete plan is enough to break the spell of overwhelm and get you moving again.
Okay, so now that we have the tools, we need the right mindset to make them work. That's what this section is all about. It's about learning to focus on the present, shifting all that energy you were spending on what if to the reality of what is.
Seriously, you can think of mindfulness like a power-up for your brain. When you practice just being in the moment, you start to silence all that inner noise and criticism. You boost your focus on what's right in front of you, and you reclaim all the energy that worry was stealing. All right, let's bring this all home. Our final section ties everything together. It's called Let Go and Breathe, and it's how you take back control for good. This is so important to understand. You are never going to stop anxious thoughts from just popping into your head. That's impossible. That's not the goal. The real power comes from recognizing them for what they are, just thoughts, and then choosing not to follow them down that rabbit hole. You are the one in control.
When you get right down to it, no amount of worrying is going to change your exam score. It's not going to fix the past or predict the future. All it does is rob you of your peace and your focus right here in the present, which, by the way, is the only time you actually have to get prepared. So I want to leave you with a challenge, something you can put into practice today. Think about one of those worries that keeps popping up about your exams. How can you take it from a big, scary what if and reframe it into a what's my next step? What is that one worry you're going to choose to reframe today? You know, we're always taught that to be strong, you have to be tough, unyielding, almost rigid. But what if that's all wrong? Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful idea, that true strength isn't about standing still. It's about learning how to bend without ever breaking.
We've all been there, right? You've got the perfect plan, everything's mapped out, and then, boom, life just completely rips up the script. The meeting gets canceled. The project you're working on hits a dead end. The path forward you saw so clearly, it just evaporates. You know that jolt of frustration, that stress? It's completely universal. But what if our response to that moment is what really matters?
And that's exactly where we're going to start. See, the real challenge usually isn't the surprise event itself. Nope, it's our own internal reaction to it. This is all about learning not just how to get by, but how to actually thrive when life throws you a curveball.
There's this myth out there that success is just about being the smartest person in the room, right? We put intelligence and talent way up on this pedestal.
But think about it. If that was the whole story, why do so many brilliant, talented people just completely freeze the second things don't go their way? Well, it's because there's another piece to the puzzle, and honestly, it's way more important. The real game changer isn't just raw talent, it's adaptability. It's that ability to pivot, to adjust your sails, and to find a new way forward when the old one is gone. That is the one thing that separates people who just survive from the ones who truly, deeply thrive.
So how in the world do we get more of this adaptability? Well, it all starts with what we can call the bamboo mindset. And this is all about understanding the huge difference between being genuinely strong and just being rigid.
Okay, so mental flexibility. This doesn't mean being wishy-washy or not having any convictions. Not at all. It's actually a superpower. It means you hold on tight to your core purpose, your why, but you stay totally open to changing the how. It's about being able to take in new info and adjust your game plan without ever losing sight of the prize.
And this comparison just makes it crystal clear. On one side, you've got rigidity, which is like brittle glass. It fights against any kind of change. It obsesses over the problems, and it has this deep need to control everything. And what happens to glass when you put it under too much pressure? It shatters. But on the other side, you have the bamboo. It adapts. It focuses on finding solutions, and it has the wisdom to let go. So when the storm comes, it just bends.
This right here gets to the very heart of it. We've been taught to think that control equals strength, but real wisdom, real power, is knowing what you can't control and having the grace to move with it instead of against it. And let's be super clear on this point. Being flexible does not mean you're abandoning your goals or your core values. Not at all. It just means you're creative and smart enough to find a new route to get where you're going. The destination can absolutely stay the same, even if the journey takes an unexpected detour.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually put it into practice in our real lives? Well, let's open up our flexibility toolkit and look at a few habits you can literally start building today.
This is the foundation. It's the big mindset shift. It is so easy to get stuck just staring at the problem, right? Replaying what went wrong over and over. But a flexible mind doesn't live there. It immediately jumps to, okay, so what now? What's the way forward from here? That pivot from problem to solution, that's everything.
So here are 3 practical ways to make that happen. First, you gotta reframe things. Instead of seeing an obstacle and thinking failure, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Turn those roadblocks into lessons. Second, consciously embrace new paths. You have to accept that a detour isn't a dead end. It might actually lead you somewhere even better. And third, actively stay open-minded. Fight that little voice that says, but we've always done it this way. Instead, make a real effort to listen to new ideas.
I love this because it really hits the nail on the head. Look, change is one of the few guarantees in life. It is going to happen, whether we like it or not. But our growth? That's not a guarantee. That part is a choice we have to make every single day. So, what's the reward for doing all this work? Why should we bother trying to build this flexible mindset? Let's talk about the incredible payoff that comes when you learn to flow with life instead of constantly fighting it.
And the benefits are real. You can actually feel them. When you're more flexible, you just get better at solving problems because you're open to more than one solution. Your relationships improve because you're less controlling and more understanding. And, no surprise, all of this leads to a life with a whole lot more happiness and a genuine sense of calm.
Ultimately, when you really get this, your entire perspective just shifts. Challenges stop being scary threats and start looking more like opportunities. Setbacks aren't just failures anymore, they're valuable lessons. You start to see every single change, big or small, as a chance to get stronger and more resilient. And this is really the whole thing in a nutshell. Think about a river that comes up against a huge boulder. It doesn't waste its energy trying to smash right through it. No, it just flows around it and keeps going. That is the essence of resilience. The more you learn to flow, the more unbreakable you become. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. Look at your life right now. Your work, your relationships, your personal goals. Where is there a spot where you feel that tension, where you're fighting against how things are? And what would happen if you chose, just for this week, to flow instead of fight? What might change?
All right, today we're going to talk about one of the simplest, but honestly, one of the most powerful keys to happiness out there: Gratitude. And look, this is so much more than just saying thank you. We're talking about a fundamental mindset that can literally transform how you experience your life, day in and day out. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if one small internal change, a little flip of a switch in your brain, could completely change how you see the world around you? Well, that's exactly the promise of what we're digging into today. So let's start at the very beginning. What do we actually mean when we say a gratitude mindset? What is this thing? Okay, now the key word here, the most important word on this slide, is choosing. Gratitude isn't about pretending that life is perfect or that challenges don't exist. Of course they do. It's about consciously making the choice to shift your focus, to stop complaining about what's wrong and start appreciating what's right. It's a mental pivot from a feeling of lack to a feeling of abundance. And this is just a brilliant example of how it works in real life. So many of us wake up and our first thought is, I have to go to work, right? That phrase just feels heavy. It's an obligation. But watch what happens when you just tweak the language a little bit. I get to go to work. Whoa. Suddenly, you're recognizing that you have a job, that you have an opportunity to earn, to contribute. That tiny, tiny change in wording can completely shift your energy for the entire day. Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, because this mindset shift isn't just about feeling a little better. It has real, tangible benefits that can ripple out into every single corner of your life. You know, these benefits are so huge because they push back against our brain's default setting. We all have something called a negativity bias. It's this old evolutionary thing that makes us laser focused on threats and problems. Well, gratitude is like a workout for your brain that retrains that focus. It boosts your mental health by making you notice the good stuff. It improves relationships because people feel truly seen and appreciated. It builds resilience, making you tougher when things get hard. And as we're about to see, it can even help you attract more good things into your life. I absolutely love this analogy. Think about it. When you're constantly focused on all your problems, what do you tend to find? More problems. But when you train your brain to actively look for blessings, to seek them out, you start seeing them everywhere. Your focus literally becomes a magnet, pulling more of what you appreciate right to you. So you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually do it? Well, the good news is it's way simpler than you might think. Here are 3 incredibly easy habits you can start building, like today. Okay, first thing. In the morning, before you even grab your phone, just lie there for a minute and think of 3 things you're thankful for. It could be your cozy bed, your health, the sun coming through the window, anything. Second, at night, get a notebook and write down just 1 thing you were grateful for that day. A good cup of coffee, a nice chat with a friend. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. The goal is just consistency, not perfection. And finally, number 3, express it. Don't just keep it in your head. Say it out loud. Tell someone you appreciate them. Trust me, it'll make their day and it'll make yours too. All right, so as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with the absolute core idea, the central truth that makes this whole thing so incredibly transformative. This is it. This is the secret sauce. Gratitude isn't a magic wand that's going to make all your problems disappear. But what it does is actually way more powerful. It changes you. It changes how you see your challenges, how you feel about your life, and how you show up for every single moment. It turns the ordinary into something to be thankful for. So, I'll leave you with this question. And I don't mean think about it later. I mean right now, in this very moment. Just take a second. What is one thing, big or small, that you are truly grateful for? Just hold that thought for a moment, because that feeling right there, that's where the transformation begins.
All right, let's dive into something that's at the heart of, well, just about everything we do: teamwork. It's the magic that happens in that space between what one person can do and what a whole group can achieve together. So let's get into it.
You know that feeling, right? When you're staring down a problem, a huge challenge, and you just know deep down, there's no way I can do this by myself. That feeling? That's exactly why collaboration isn't just some nice idea, it's an absolute necessity. It really boils down to this classic trade-off. Do you want to go fast or do you want to go far? Sure, working by yourself can feel quicker in the short term, but look at the catch. You're stuck with your own limited perspective, and the entire weight of the world is on your shoulders. Now look at the other side. When you work together, bam, you get this explosion of new ideas, this broader innovation. And that heavy burden, it's not a burden anymore. It becomes a shared success.
So that brings us to our first big idea.
we're going to take a closer look at the very real limits of just trying to muscle through things on your own and explore the incredible promise of what can happen when we collaborate.
And listen, this isn't some fluffy corporate buzzword they throw around in meetings. We're talking about a core life skill. It doesn't matter if you're a student working on a project, a teacher trying to run a classroom, or a professional hitting a deadline. Teamwork is the common thread you'll find in pretty much every success story out there.
Okay, so if it's so important, what actually makes a team? Because let's be real, it is way more than just sticking a bunch of people in the same room or on the same video call and hoping for the best. So let's break down what a real team actually looks like.
At its most basic, teamwork is just a group of people pulling together toward a common goal. But the key part, the part that makes it special, is doing it in the most effective and efficient way you can. It's that bridge we've been talking about, turning a bunch of separate efforts into one big, shared victory. These 5 things you're seeing here, they are the absolute pillars of any great team. You need real collaboration, not just people working side by side. You need clear, open communication. You have to have mutual respect, because that's the foundation for deep trust. And finally, a shared focus on problem solving. You know, that mindset where it's always us versus the problem, never you versus me? Without these, you're just a group. With them, you're a powerhouse.
You know, there's this huge misconception that to be part of a team, you have to erase your personality and just blend in. But it's the total opposite. Great teamwork doesn't erase what makes you unique, it amplifies it. It's about taking your specific talents and your unique perspective and weaving them together with everyone else's strengths to create something so much bigger and better than any one person could ever do alone.
So how do you actually build all that? The trust, the unity, the collaboration? Well, none of it, and I mean none of it, can exist without one critical piece: communication. It's the engine that drives the whole thing. It's what builds the trust and unity that are absolutely essential for success. It's really that simple, but so powerful. The quality of your results is directly tied to the quality of your communication. Period. There are no shortcuts here. Poor communication creates friction and failure, but good communication, it just paves the way for great things to happen.
So what does good communication actually mean? Because it's a lot more than just talking. It's active listening, and here's a great habit. Try to listen to understand, not just to plan what you're going to say next. It's empathy, really trying to see things from someone else's point of view. It's clarity in your own message and a genuine openness to ideas, especially the ones that might challenge your own.
And here's where you see the payoff. When that communication engine is running smoothly, collaboration just clicks. It happens naturally. It's the process that takes all those brilliant, diverse ideas and turns them into real, concrete action. Of course, it's not always going to be smooth sailing. I mean, when you have a bunch of smart people with different perspectives, disagreements are bound to happen. They're inevitable. But the best teams don't run from conflict. They actually learn how to turn it into a source of growth. So let's just ask the question straight up. What do you do when disagreements pop up and things just go sideways? Because honestly, that's the moment that can either make a team stronger or completely break it apart.
Here is a clear path forward when that happens. Step 1, you have to acknowledge the disagreement respectfully. Don't just ignore it. Step 2, practice that empathy we talked about and really listen to all sides. Step 3, and this is so critical, remind everybody what the shared goal is. That reframes everything and lets you move to step 4, collaborating on a solution together instead of fighting each other.
And here's the amazing part. When a team successfully gets through a conflict, it doesn't just go back to where it was. It emerges stronger. Every single challenge you overcome together just deepens the respect and trust, and that's what makes a team truly unstoppable.
And all this brings us to our final essential takeaway, the lasting, incredible strength that comes from true unity and collaboration. This powerful African proverb just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? Individual speed is one thing, but for the long journey, for the achievements that really truly matter, you have to go together.
The acronym says it all. TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. It's a simple phrase, but it captures the absolute essence of what we've been talking about. The whole is truly, truly greater than the sum of its parts.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Whether it's your team at work, your family at home, or your friends in a study group, what incredible hidden potential is just waiting to be unlocked if you all decide to truly work together? Hey, let's talk about something that's, well, absolutely central to everything we do, our mental well-being. So, for the next few minutes, we're going to build a super simple, practical toolkit together. One you can start using literally today to feel healthier and, just plainer happier. It's a heck of a question, isn't it? Our mental state, it really does influence everything. How we think, how we feel, how we show up in the world. But if we're being honest, for a lot of us, it's kind of the last thing we actively take care of.
So today, that's going to change. We're cutting through all the noise and getting straight to the good stuff. A toolkit packed with real, science-backed strategies you can weave into your daily life to protect your mind and, just as importantly, your energy. Okay, so we've broken it all down into these 3 core pillars you see right here. Just think of them as the foundation for a stronger, healthier you. We're going to walk through each one step by step, and I promise it's all about simple habits you can start right away. All right, first up, let's focus inward. This is all about calming the chatter in our heads, dialing down the stress, and really finding a little bit of that inner peace.
We're kicking things off with something you can do anytime, anywhere. And I know, it sounds almost too simple, right? But check this out. Just 2 minutes of focused breathing can actually change your body's chemistry. It lowers cortisol, that's the stress hormone, and just tells your whole nervous system, hey, it's okay, we can relax.
You know what, let's actually do one together right now. Just get comfortable wherever you are. We're going to breathe in through the nose for 4 counts. Ready? Let's go. In, 2, 3, 4. And just gently hold that breath for a moment.
And now a nice, long, slow exhale through your mouth for 8. Ready? Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. How do you feel? Even just that one round can make a real noticeable difference.
Okay, our next strategy is all about being a gatekeeper for your mind. Think about it. We wouldn't eat junk food all day and expect to feel great, right? Well, a constant diet of negativity online and in the news has the exact same effect on our minds.
And this slide, it just lays it out so clearly. Think about your first few minutes in the morning. That mindless scrolling, it's so passive, and it just saps your energy before your day is even started. But what if you swapped it? Just 5 minutes of journaling or a little stretching. That's an intentional choice that actually gives you energy. It's such a simple trade, but the payoff is huge. All right, our third strategy is an absolute powerhouse for shifting your entire perspective. Look, practicing gratitude doesn't mean you have to ignore the tough stuff in life. Not at all. What it does is it actively trains your brain to also notice the good things that are happening all around you. And when I say it trains your brain, I mean you are literally rewiring it. The more you look for things to be grateful for, the easier it becomes for your brain to spot the positive automatically. The trick is just making it a habit. Like the tips here say, try jotting down 3 little things each night, or keep a gratitude jar. It's such a small effort for such a big mental shift.
Now, let's move on to our second pillar, and it builds right on top of the first. Here's the thing. Your mind and your body, they're not 2 separate things. They are one deeply connected system. And honestly, fueling your body is one of the fastest ways to feel better mentally.
And listen, this does not mean you have to go run a marathon. Unless you want to, then go for it. This is simply about finding a little joy in moving your body every day, because your brain gets just as much out of it as your muscles do.
I just love this quote because it frames it so perfectly. Think of it like this. Every time you move, whether it's walking or dancing or stretching, your brain releases endorphins. Those are your body's own natural mood boosters. Seriously, even a quick 10-minute walk can be enough to totally clear your head.
Okay, this next one is, and I mean this, absolutely non-negotiable for good mental health: sleep. It's when your brain actually cleans itself out, processes emotions, and recharges for the next day. Skimping on sleep is like trying to run your phone on 1% battery. It just doesn't work. You know that feeling when you're exhausted and everything just feels harder? That's because lack of sleep weakens your ability to manage your emotions, so anxiety and irritability just feel way more intense. The best thing you can do is create a little wind-down ritual. You have to signal to your brain that it's time to rest. So yeah, that means putting the screens away, dimming the lights, maybe having a warm cup of tea.
And that brings us to our final pillar, which is all about strengthening our connections. Because at the end of the day, we're social creatures. Our sense of well-being is just fundamentally tangled up with our relationships with other people. Loneliness is such a huge energy drain. It can make us feel totally isolated and makes our own problems feel so much bigger than they are. The antidote? Proactively reaching out and making those connections.
The key here is to make it easy and to make it consistent. It doesn't have to be some big, complicated plan. Schedule a quick 15-minute coffee chat over video. Set a reminder on your phone to call someone you care about once a week. It's those small, steady efforts that really build that strong support network over time.
Now, this might seem like an odd one for a section about connection, but it's crucial. Setting healthy boundaries is about protecting your own energy within your relationships. It is a profound act of self-care.
I want you to think about it this way. Every single time you say no to something that drains you or doesn't respect your time, you are saying a huge, powerful yes to your own peace of mind. You can do it kindly, you can do it respectfully, but do it firmly. It really is all about respecting yourself.
And our final strategy, this one might be the most courageous of all. So often, we think we have to carry all our worries and struggles by ourselves, in silence. But you know, sharing them is what makes them lighter.
This quote just nails it. Whether it's with a professional therapist or just in a really open conversation with a friend you trust, saying things out loud releases their power over you. It takes them out of the dark corners of your mind and brings them into the light, where you can actually start to deal with them.
So as we wrap up here, I think this is the most important thing to remember. Taking care of your mental health isn't some finish line you cross. It's not a destination, it's just a daily practice. It's a series of small, kind choices you make for yourself day in and day out.
So please, don't feel like you have to do all of these things at once. Just pick one. What is the one small thing you can do today to take care of your mind? Whatever you choose, just know that it's a really powerful step in the right direction. Thanks so much for taking this time for yourself today.
You know that feeling, right? That knot in your stomach, the thoughts that just won't stop racing? We all know what stress feels like. It's that sense of being under pressure when life is just coming at you way too fast. But here's a thought. What if the goal isn't to get rid of stress entirely, but to get better at handling it? We're about to dive into what stress really is and build a practical toolkit you can use starting today to reclaim your peace.
Honestly, this idea right here is a total game changer. We've been taught to think that stress is the villain of the story, but it's not. It's our reaction to it that makes all the difference. So if we can change our response, well, we can pretty much change everything. And that right there is the key that's going to unlock this whole journey for us. All right, so to build a better response, we first have to understand the machine we're working with, our own bodies. I mean, what's actually going on inside of us when we feel that pressure building? Let's decode. So at its core, stress is really just a biological signal. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. Think of it like your body's ancient built-in alarm system. It's designed to go off whenever it senses any kind of demand or challenge. It's a completely natural process, and believe it or not, sometimes it's actually really useful. And here's how that alarm system works. It all kicks off the second your brain senses a challenge. Right away, it starts pumping out hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And no, that's not a mistake. Your body is literally preparing you to take action, making you super focused and alert. This is that famous fight or flight response in action. But here's where it gets tricky, and this is the crucial difference. In the short term, that hormonal rush can be like a superpower, right? It sharpens your focus, it motivates you to get stuff done. The problem is when that alarm system gets stuck in the on position. That's chronic stress, and its effects are the things we really want to avoid. That drained energy, the terrible sleep, and just that major hit to our overall well-being. So, you might be asking, why is our alarm system always on? Well, in our modern world, the threats aren't exactly lions in the grass anymore. Nope. They're emails, they're deadlines, they're endless notifications. Let's take a look at where all this constant pressure is coming from. Yeah, these probably look pretty familiar, don't they? They can come from outside sources, like work deadlines or money worries. But take a look at that last one, our own thoughts and expectations. A lot of the time, the heaviest pressure we feel actually comes from inside our own heads. And that right there is a crucial piece of the puzzle. Okay, so we've got a handle on the problem. Now for the good part. The solutions. This whole next section is all about action. We're going to build a toolkit filled with practical, science-backed strategies to help you manage all these pressures way more effectively. We've got 10 really powerful strategies lined up for you. But listen, don't think of this as some overwhelming checklist you have to do perfectly. Think of it more like a menu of options. You can pick and choose what works for you in this moment to start making a real change.
Our very first tool is one you have with you all the time, and you can use it anywhere. When you're stressed out, your breathing gets all short and shallow. This simple technique flips that switch. Seriously, let's try it. Inhale slowly for 4, hold it for 4, and now a long, slow exhale for 6. What you're doing is sending a direct message to your nervous system, telling it, hey, it's okay, you can calm down now.
Now, since a lot of our stress starts in our heads, our next few strategies are all about the mind. It can start with just the voice in your head. Instead of, I can't do this, maybe try, I'll do the best I can. Then give your brain a real break. Disconnect from the screens, even for just a few minutes. And things like mindfulness and gratitude, think of them like going to the gym for your brain. You're training it to focus on what's good and what's happening right now.
Of course, your mind and your body are totally connected, so physical strategies are just as critical. Movement is medicine, for real. Exercise releases these natural mood boosters called endorphins. Fueling your body with good food gives it the resources it needs to handle pressure. And sleep. Oh, sleep is not a luxury. It is non-negotiable. It's when your brain actually repairs itself and recharges for the next day.
And yeah, speaking of rest, this number is so key. We're not just talking about some vague idea of getting more sleep. The target is specific, 7 to 8 hours of quality rest every single night. I promise you, this is one of the most powerful stress busters you have.
Finally, let's look at how we engage with the world and the people around us. Connection is an amazing antidote to stress. Just sharing what you're going through with someone you trust can literally make the load feel lighter. And just as important is learning to set boundaries. Learning to say no isn't selfish, okay? It is absolutely essential for protecting your own energy.
I mean, this says it all, doesn't it? This is the perfect way to think about why setting those boundaries and taking care of yourself is so important. If your own cup is empty, if your energy is totally depleted, you have absolutely nothing left to give. Not to your work, not to your family, not to anything.
Okay, so all these tools are fantastic for dealing with stress in the moment. But the long-term goal here is to go beyond just managing. It's about building lasting resilience.
And let's be really clear about what resilience actually is. It is not about building some kind of wall around yourself so challenges can't get to you. It's about developing the flexibility and the inner strength to face those challenges head-on, learn from them, and then bounce back even stronger than you were before. And the best part? It's a skill you can build.
So, how do you build it? Well, you stay flexible, because life rarely goes exactly according to plan. You actively look for the lesson inside every tough situation, and this is so important. You celebrate the small wins, acknowledging that progress, no matter how small, is what builds the momentum and the confidence you need for whatever comes next. So, as we wrap up, just remember this. Stress is always going to be a part of life. There will always be challenges, but they do not have to control you. You now have the tools, you have the power to calm your mind, to refocus your energy, and to find your peace again.
And that brings us to our final and honestly our most important question. This isn't just about learning stuff, it's about doing stuff. So looking at everything we just talked about, what is one small step you can take today to reclaim your peace? Maybe it's that 5-minute walk. Maybe it's just one deep breathing exercise. Or maybe it's just saying no to one tiny request. That one step, that's where all the change begins.
Have you ever really stopped to wonder what it takes to build bridges instead of walls in our world? Well, it often comes down to this one powerful and honestly, sometimes misunderstood quality. So today, we're going to dive into the power of tolerance and what it really means to create a world of genuine respect and understanding.
Let's just start right there with an idea that kind of flips a common misconception on its head. So often, we hear tolerance talked about like it's a passive thing, like you're just putting up with something. But the truth? It takes an incredible amount of inner strength to truly listen, to seek understanding, and to respect others, especially when their views challenge our own. So if tolerance is a strength, why is it so incredibly urgent right now? Let's dig into why this quality has become a foundational, almost non-negotiable skill for modern life.
I mean, just think about your average day. You might be working with a team spread across 3 different continents, scrolling through news from a dozen countries on your phone, and living in a neighborhood that's a vibrant mix of cultures. In a world like ours, tolerance isn't just some nice-to-have virtue. It's the very engine that keeps our interconnected world from falling apart. And this is really what it's all about. Tolerance is the bedrock. Without it, empathy, it just struggles to take root. Real connection feels impossible, and genuine peace, it stays just out of reach. So the big takeaway here is that this isn't just about getting along. It's about creating a world where we can all actually thrive together. Okay, so to practice it, we first need to be crystal clear on what it actually is, and maybe just as important, what it isn't.
What's so interesting here is how active this definition is. See, it's not passive at all. Tolerance isn't about gritting your teeth and just enduring something. It's an active process of respecting differences, really putting in the effort to understand them, and yeah, even celebrating the diversity that makes our world so rich.
And this right here, this is a super important distinction. You do not have to agree with someone's beliefs to be tolerant of them. Not at all. Tolerance is about respecting their fundamental right to hold those beliefs. You can respect a person's humanity while completely disagreeing with their opinion. That separation is absolutely key. Every single day, in dozens of little interactions, we face this choice. Do we just default to a snap judgment, a quick assumption, or do we consciously hit pause and choose to lead with an open mind, with kindness? True tolerance lives right there, in that moment of active, conscious decision-making. Of course, making that choice isn't always easy, because let's face it, our brains are wired for shortcuts. So now, let's look at the other side of the coin, how intolerance actually starts and grows, and more importantly, how we can stop it in its tracks.
You can see here, intolerance rarely just appears out of thin air. It follows this really dangerous but predictable path. It often starts with what seems like a harmless stereotype, but when that stereotype goes unchecked, it can harden into a real personal bias. From there, it's a short, slippery slope to open judgment, which ultimately creates those painful divisions we see in our communities.
It's a huge question, isn't it? When you see the cycle laid out so clearly, you have to ask yourself, where can we step in? How do we break this chain before it really gathers momentum? And here are the answers. These are our best tools. Empathy. That's what lets us feel what others feel. It's the antidote to that us versus them mindset. Honest communication is how we bridge the gaps between our different worlds. And when you put those two together, you get genuine understanding, which is the ultimate cure for bias.
Okay, this brings us to the really practical part. We've talked about the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. What can you actually do starting today to build a more tolerant world right where you are? So here's your personal toolkit. And it all starts with active listening. And I mean, not just waiting for your turn to speak, but really trying to hear the experience behind someone's words. Get curious, ask questions. And when you do speak, aim for a dialogue, not a debate. The goal isn't to win an argument, it's to connect and understand. And here's a really profound thought. When we make a genuine effort to see the world from another person's perspective, it does more than just teach us about them. It actually shines a mirror back on our own assumptions, our own culture, and our own place in the world. It's a pretty powerful path to self-discovery, really. This quote from UNESCO just nails it, doesn't it? In our super-connected age, these aren't just soft skills. They're essential survival tools for a peaceful, functional, and innovative global society. Thinking about these as essential skills is the perfect way to frame our final section. Because just like any other skill, tolerance isn't something you achieve just once. It's an ongoing, daily practice that we have to consciously work on. So, what are the key lessons to take with you? First, that unity doesn't require us all to be the same. We can be united in our diversity. Second, that real peace always begins the moment we stop planning our response and start truly listening. And third, that respectful conversation has the power to heal even the deepest divides. And that brings us right back to where we started. True tolerance is this incredible blend of strength, the strength to be open-minded and secure in yourself, but guided by a deep and genuine compassion for other people. You should never, ever underestimate the ripple effect of your daily choices. Each time you choose curiosity over judgment, you're basically casting a vote for a better, kinder world. It's a small, personal act with a huge collective impact. So I'll leave you with this challenge. Think about one person in your life, at work, in your family, in your community, someone you see things differently with. What's one conversation you can have this week? Not to win, not to convince, but simply to practice understanding. Thanks for joining me. You ever have one of those brilliant ideas, right? But then, almost immediately, that little voice in your head pipes up and says, nah, that'll never work.
Well, that voice is what a lack of self-trust sounds like. And today, we're going to figure out how to build a stronger voice, one that has your back. I mean, really think about it for a sec. Do you ever talk yourself out of trying something new just because you're scared you might not get it right the first time? That hesitation, that little moment of doubt, that's what we're talking about today. It's a sign that our self-trust could use a little boost.
But here's the thing, and this is probably the most important idea we're going to cover. What if self-trust isn't some magic trait you either have or you don't? What if it's actually a skill, something you can practice and get better at, just like learning to cook or play an instrument? I mean, that's a total game changer, right?
So, if it's like a muscle, how do we actually build it? Well, it's not some quick fix, that's for sure. It's more like a daily workout. It's about showing up, doing the reps with small, consistent actions, day in and day out.
So what are we really talking about here? At its core, self-trust is just that solid belief in yourself. It's not about being arrogant or loud. It's just a quiet internal confidence. That little voice inside that, when things get tough, just says, "It's okay, I can handle this."
Let's take a quick trip down memory lane. Think back to when you were a toddler, just figuring out how to walk. You fell a lot, like hundreds of times. But you never just threw your hands up and decided walking wasn't for you, right? You just got up and tried again. That's the kind of natural, built-in resilience we're trying to tap back into.
Okay, enough with the theory, let's get practical. The first step is to rewire that inner voice. We're going to silence that nagging inner critic and replace it with a supportive inner coach. Think of it like a mental makeover. It's time to upgrade your internal programming.
So when that little critic does pop up and starts whispering doubts, what's your go-to response? Do you just believe it without question? You know, the very first step in changing that voice is just noticing that it's there in the first place.
And look at this. This is the power of a simple reframe. The inner critic says, "I can't do this." But the inner coach pushes back and asks, "Okay, but what's the evidence for that?" The critic says, "I'll fail." The coach says, "So what? I'll learn something." See the difference? It's a tiny shift in words that makes a massive difference in your headspace.
I gotta be real with you here. Perfectionism is the enemy. It just freezes us in place. So please, whatever you do, don't wait until you think you're perfect to start. Just start. Let your progress, no matter how messy it is, be the thing that builds your confidence. And this brings me to a huge point. You have got to celebrate the small wins. I'm serious. Every single time you do something you set out to do, no matter how tiny, you're literally building a mountain of evidence that proves you're capable. You're proving it to yourself, one step at a time.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. We tend to think we need to find confidence before we can act. But it's actually the other way around. Confidence is what you build by taking action, especially when you're feeling scared or unsure. So stop waiting to feel confident. Just start. Confidence isn't the ticket you buy to get on the ride. It's the souvenir you pick up along the way. Action comes first. The confidence will follow, I promise. Here's a super simple 3-step plan you can use for anything. Number 1, listen. What does that quiet inner voice really want? 2, act. Take one small, totally manageable step in that direction. And 3, prove. By taking that step, you prove to yourself that you can count on, well, you. That's it. And listen, you don't have to do this all by yourself. In fact, you really, really shouldn't. Building that unshakable self-trust is a whole lot easier when you've got a solid support system around you. We all mess up. Every single one of us. We have moments where we feel like we completely dropped the ball. The key is learning to forgive yourself and move on. Instead of beating yourself up, just ask, okay, what did I learn from that? Suddenly, that so-called failure just became your best teacher. And you need to surround yourself with positivity. Seriously, curate your environment. Unfollow the people on social media who bring you down. Fill your feed with inspiring stuff. Read books by people you admire. Listen to podcasts that get you fired up. Create your own little bubble of positive energy and just watch what happens. All right, you've got the tools. The blueprint is right here in front of you. So the only real question left is, what are you going to do with it? It's time to take that first step and start building the confidence you absolutely deserve. And please remember, this whole journey, it's not about being perfect. It never was. It's about knowing deep down in your bones that you are capable, that you are resourceful, and that you are completely worthy of achieving whatever it is you set your mind to. So I'll leave you with this one question.
What is the one small thing you will do today to prove to yourself that you can? Don't overthink it. Just pick one thing and do it. You've got this. All right, let's talk about time, but not just managing it. I'm talking about taking it back, right? Because in a world that's always buzzing and pulling you in a million directions, it's so easy to feel completely overwhelmed. We're going to flip that script. We're going to figure out how to go from feeling scattered to feeling totally in control. So let's dive in. Okay, does this sound familiar? You wake up, you've got your coffee, you've got this beautiful, ambitious to-do list, and then the day just happens, right? By the time evening rolls around, you look at that list and it's barely got a dent in it. You were busy all day running around, putting out fires, but productive? Not so much. And let me just say, if that's you, you are so not alone. So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the real issue with our 24 hours. Then we'll get strategic before we get tactical. After that, we'll architect your perfect day, build a fortress to protect your focus, and wrap it all up by making sure these habits actually stick. Sound good? All right, first things first, we have to completely reframe this whole conversation. For way too long, time management has just been code for how can I cram more stuff into my day? But that's a recipe for burnout. The real goal, the one that actually works, is something way, way smarter. And here it is, the big idea. It is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. It's a total mindset shift, right? We're moving away from the trap of being busy and moving towards being effective. It's all about finding those few key things, the real needle movers, and giving them your absolute, undivided attention. That's the secret sauce that gets you off the hamster wheel. Okay, so before we start talking about apps and techniques and all that fun stuff, we need to talk strategy. Think of it like this. You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint, right? Well, same thing for your time. Without a clear plan for what's actually important to you, all the productivity hacks in the world are just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. They won't get you where you really want to go. And our cornerstone for that strategy? It's a classic for a reason, the Eisenhower Matrix. It sounds fancy, but it's actually super simple. And oh my gosh, is it powerful. It forces you to ask one critical question. Is this thing just urgent, or is it truly important? And trust me, getting clear on that difference, that changes everything. So here's how it breaks down. You've got 4 boxes. Top left, important and urgent. This is your do-it-now stuff, like studying for that big exam tomorrow. Top right, important but not urgent. This is the gold mine. Things like planning your weekly goals. You don't do it now, you schedule it. You protect time for it. Bottom left, urgent but not important. Think of a lot of emails or interruptions. The goal here is to delegate it or minimize it. And finally, the bottom right, not urgent and not important. This is the stuff you just eliminate. Yeah, I'm looking at you, endless Instagram scrolling. And that ties perfectly into another big strategic idea. You've probably heard of it, the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. It basically says that a huge chunk, like 80%, of your results are going to come from a surprisingly small amount of your effort, just 20%. So your job, your real mission here, is to figure out what your personal 20% is. What are those high-impact activities? Find them, and then protect them like your life depends on it. Okay, so we've got our blueprints, our high-level strategy. Now it's time to get our hands dirty. Let's talk about the practical, day-to-day tools that turn you into the architect of your own day. And here's probably the single most powerful habit you can build. Plan tomorrow, today. Seriously. It takes, 10, maybe 15 minutes before you wrap up for the evening? You just list out your top 3 to 5 priorities, guess how long they'll take, and, this is key, you even schedule in your breaks. The magic here is that you wake up with 0 decision fatigue. You don't have to wonder, what should I do now? You just execute. Want to level that up? Try time blocking. This is a game changer. Instead of a floating to-do list, you literally drag those tasks into your calendar and give them a home. It turns a vague intention into a concrete appointment with yourself, and you're way less likely to skip an appointment, right? So, what do you do inside those time blocks to stay focused? Enter the Pomodoro technique. It is brilliant. You set a timer for 25 minutes and you just go. Hard focus on one thing. Then you take a 5-minute break. It's basically interval training for your brain. It stops you from burning out and keeps your focus sharp all day long. And you don't even have to watch the clock yourself. There are a ton of great apps out there, things like Focus To Do, Forest, or even just web-based ones like Pomo Focus. They handle the timing so you can just work.
All right, so you've got this beautiful, well-crafted plan. But let's be real. The world is designed to distract you. So now we switch from offense to defense. It's time to build a fortress around your focus and protect your time from all the things trying to steal it. So on one side of the battlefield, you've got the time thieves, those endless pings and notifications, a messy desk, you know the drill. And on our side, we have focus habits. Putting your phone on Do Not Disturb while you're in a time block, that's not optional, it's essential. And here's another great one, the 2-minute rule. If something pops up that'll take less than 2 minutes, just do it right then and there. It stops those tiny tasks from piling up and clouding your brain.
You know, one of the biggest distractions isn't our phones, it's other people. Learning how to politely say no, or at least not right now, is an absolute superpower. And you don't have to be rude. A simple phrase like this works wonders. It shows you're focused, respects their request, and puts a boundary around your time. It's a win-win.
Okay, we've got strategy, we've got daily plans, we've got defense. But the million-dollar question is, how do you make this stuff actually stick? Right? How do we turn this from a one-week experiment into a lifelong habit? That's the final piece of the puzzle, sustainability.
This is where routines become your best friend. Seriously, the power of a solid morning and evening routine is just huge. It puts all the good stuff on autopilot. You stop wasting that precious morning brain power on deciding what to do. You just do. It creates this amazing, calm, and efficient rhythm to your entire day. And to keep your system sharp, you need a feedback loop. That's the weekly review. It's not a big, scary meeting. It's just 15 minutes with yourself at the end of the week, asking these simple questions. What worked? What didn't? What am I going to try differently next week? This is how you learn and adapt and get better and better over time. And yeah, of course, technology can help. There are amazing tools for literally everything. But here's the golden rule. Don't get tool-itis. Don't spend more time organizing your system than actually doing the work. Pick one or two that work for you, whether it's a simple list in Google Tasks or a big project board in Notion, and just stick with it. Consistency beats complexity every time. And please, please don't forget this. This is so important. Time management is also energy management. You can have the most perfect color-coded automated system in the world, but if you're running on 3 hours of sleep and coffee fumes, it's all gonna fall apart. Sleep, good food, actual breaks where you step away from the screen. That's not a luxury. That is literally the fuel that makes the whole engine run. So look, when you boil it all down, this isn't really about getting more things done. It's about making sure you have the time and energy for the things and the people that truly matter. So please, don't feel like you have to do all of this tomorrow. Just pick one thing. Maybe it's planning your next day tonight. Start small, stay consistent, and just watch what happens. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. If I could magically give you 1 extra hour today, a totally uninterrupted, deeply focused hour, what would you spend it on? Seriously, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Because that's what really matters to you. And the cool part is, you now have a roadmap to go and create that hour for yourself.